go ahead and get started. My name's Atch, and we're here today to talk about motion sequences. So, what you need to do is, from our landing screen here, go ahead and start. We're going to start with an init AWM2 patch, so we're going to hit category search. We're going to hit init AWM2, and we're going to go back and we have basic piano sound. Go ahead and click on name, coming over to edit. Now, a couple things. First thing I want to do is set it to OBSaw, which is one of my favorite patches there, as you probably already know. Click on one oscillator tune over here where it says CF3 stretch, search, synth lead, OBSaw. Go back and we have this. OBSaw. Now, before I go any farther, what I'm going to do is set up a simple motion sequence where lane 1 controls the cutoff of this sound. So what I want to do first is come over here and make sure that the cutoff values are set to something we're going to be able to hear. So put the resonance up a bit, and remember, if you want your filter to be more pronounced whenever you get into the low area, adjust your filter EG depth, and I'm going to put that to about 10. See? Now I'll bring it up. It's audible. We know it's there. Okay. Now come back over to common. There's a couple of things here. We can start with our motion sequencer, which if you notice on the left hand side right here where you have your part settings, effect, arpeggio, motion sequence, mod control, click on motion sequence. Now the first page that comes up is your common page, and just turn the knobs and see what happens. It adjusts the whole thing kind of as a whole. Now first things first here. Sorry, from your common page on this little tab over here, come over and then click on lane, and we'll go ahead and set up a motion sequence on lane 1 to affect the cutoff of our sound here. So make sure your motion sequencer switch is on, okay? Then you come over to your lane switch on, and you'll notice a couple of things happen whenever we do that. You got sequence select. You have a little graph down here that you can see, and there's a couple other parameters here that we're gonna talk about. So now that we have our motion sequencer on, lane switch is on, sequence 1 is there, but when I hit it, I got no motion sequence. So what I want to do is I want to come over here to mod control, which is on the left, and it's right underneath motion sequence here, and click that. Now, if you'll notice up at the top here, let me get back to where I need to be here so I can mirror where you guys are at. It says display filter. You can't really see it on my screen here, but up here it says display filter. And then it has like a knob or a wheel or a function there, and in this case it defaults, I think, to mod wheel. If you don't know what your modulation wheel is, on the bottom left hand of your keyboard here you have the pitch bend wheel, which will move back to center, and then you have a mod bend wheel that you can freely move that doesn't automatically click back to center. And so let's say, for example, you want the mod wheel to control your cutoff. Well, you see this little plus right here? That plus indicates a destination for whatever your source is. And in this case, the source is our mod wheel. So if we wanted our destination to be cutoff, we click it and then come over here to element. And then on our element, we can find that cutoff is right there. Right there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. Now, theoretically, technically, when I hit this button and turn this wheel, you should hear a cutoff being adjusted, which is exactly as we predicted. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and see about how do we do this here. Delete. You see this little button? Right there where my finger's at, you can barely see it. But down at the bottom right, you can delete your destination. So we're back to our basic page of Mod Wheel and a plus. Now, we want the motion sequencer to affect this sound. So we come over here to our display filter, and when that comes up, our little thing over here on the left, there's a set of boxes here, and we want to go ahead and hit that to open it wide open. And what you'll see here is you have your foot switch, aftertouch, ribbon controller, breath controller, all of your knobs, and we have MS lane 1, and then it goes down through MS lane 4 right in the center column. Go ahead and select MS lane 1. Okay? Sorry, I got a bit. Okay. Now, this stands for motion sequence lane 1. So on the left of your screen right here, come back over to motion sequence and check it out. In lane 1, sequence 1 is on, and sequence 1 is basically this display of just kind of ramp waves. So whenever we hit the button and we have motion sequence lane 1 over here in our mod control, let's go back to mod control. When we have motion sequence lane 1 assigned to cutoff, and you just saw the little ramps or whatever, it should go what, right? So MS lane 1 is our display filter. We're displaying the modulation source as being motion sequence lane 1, and we want that source to control the destination of the element cutoff parameter. So we hit our plus button. It's kind of already at cutoff, but it might default to say ins A, which is basically insert effects. Like you can control different parameters on the effects. Your part parameter, you can control how much reverb, how much send goes to the reverb, and different things like that. Well, over in element, we have a lot of different types of controls, but here we're going to select cutoff. Now, it's set. Okay, our source is motion sequence lane 1. Our destination is element cutoff. So when I hit this button, it should go what, which is exactly what it does. Now, let's go back to motion sequence. Now, if you'll notice down at the bottom, that's exactly what it's doing. I'll go over some of these functions. So sync, tempo, beat, ARP, sync to the tempo, sync to the beat, sync to the arpeggiator. That's pretty self-explanatory. We'll go to tempo. Unit multiplier, if I'm not mistaken, it's defaulting to 1/16, which you're going to call 100%. Okay? If you increase the unit multiplier to say 500%, it'll get slower. If you decrease the unit multiplier to say 50%, it'll be faster, right? So for this demonstration, I'm going to make it kind of slow. Just so we can kind of get an idea of what each section is going whenever I go into showing this. Okay, loop on, that's if the loop is off, here, let me set my unit multiplier up faster because it'll take a while to get through all that sequence there. Okay, if your loop is off, it's going to run through the sequence and stop. So basically it's doing 16 ramps and then stopping. Okay. Your velocity limit, if you set like the lower limit to say something like 90, if you hit the button, like if you hit the key softly, you're not going to have any motion sequence effect, but if you hit it hard, you'll get the effect. Okay? Pretty self-explanatory there. So I'm going to set my unit multiplier back down to, it looks like about 300 here. So it's relatively slow. Now, you have load sequence and you have edit sequence down on the bottom there. And your cycle is basically how many cycles it does. We'll leave it to 16 just for the demo here. Actually, let's go ahead and set it to 8. so we can kind of get through this quickly. Edit sequence, go ahead and click that button. Now, what you'll see is this kind of overarching display here, the different channels, and our cycle is set to 8. So you can select each one of these kind of individually, and you can adjust, how high up the ramp is going to go. But if you'll notice, whenever you're turning it, that your level knobs also are adjusting on your keyboard. So you can literally adjust them with your level knobs at this point once you have them selected, and that's what I'm doing here. If you see them changing, I'm using my level knobs to adjust them. Now, beneath you'll see a bunch of A's, okay, and then below that you'll see something that says Pulse A, Direction, Parameter, Control, so on and so forth. I'm not going to get too much into the details, except for that whenever you click on Pulse A, a menu comes up that has a selection of different types of waveforms. Okay, so you'll see that FM is making that little kind of hump-shaped wave, and as you'll see in our graph, they all kind of change to that same wave there. We can reverse them, we can make them forward. They probably sound a little different now. Okay, and then Pulse B, you can do the same with. Let's say we want Pulse B to whatever sequence, we'll just pick that. So that's kind of a gnarly looking wave right there. So we can come up over here where it says all the A's, and we can swap those out with B's, so we can make kind of like a complex sequence. And loop is off, so it's going to stop whenever we hold the key down. Now, you have a bunch of different sequences that you can set up, and I'm not really going to get too much into the detail, because now that you know how to turn the motion sequencer on and kind of set some general parameters, you can experiment with it yourself and come up with your own creative type patterns and stuff like that. And of course, you can hit store sequence and you can store the sequence, and you can hit load sequence and you can load a sequence. This is all very simple.